What is going on, everybody? Oh baby, it's finally here. This is the Apron Bump Podcast, and I am the hardest part of the ring. How's everybody doing tonight? Whenever you're listening to this. Man, that's it's been a long time coming, but I think now more than ever is the perfect time to start a podcast about wrestling. Because, I mean, there's never been a more podcastable time in wrestling than right now. You know what I mean? With social media, with all of the different wrestling companies popping up all over the world, there's so many takes to have. There's so many things to watch. There's so many toxic people, both on the internet and in real life, to confront and to talk about. But at the end of the day, there's just a lot of fun stuff in wrestling happening right now. I mean, I don't need to tell you guys about the Wednesday Night Wars or, you know, what's going on in WWE with how they're expanding every single day. But man, there's just so much stuff happening. Like, it's hard. Like, I'm very OCD about that. Like, I need to watch every single second of everything, or at least I used to be. Slowly, I'm kind of starting to ignore certain products, certain aspects of different shows, whether it be WWE or otherwise. And but there's still so much good wrestling out there, and I'm very excited to have a podcast, to have this platform to discuss it and to discuss it with other people and get their views and their takes on different things like that. So why are we here? What is this podcast, and why should you be listening to this as opposed to other podcasts or other YouTube shows, other fan-related shows out there? Well, it took me so long to start a podcast because the main thing that I'm seeking out to do is to create a product that is different from what everybody else is doing. You know, I don't know if you guys have heard of these YouTube channels. I mean, there's several of them, but two that I subscribe to on YouTube are What Culture and Cultaholic. And to be honest, I follow them really to hate watch them at this point. It's probably not a very healthy thing to do, but I'm probably not alone there. I mean, you just look at the comments on their videos, and it's just fuck you, you're stupid, you're gay, whatever it is. But, you know, What Culture and Cultaholic, for example, just for an example, two different YouTube channels. But if you subscribe to both of them and you're following what they're putting out, it's almost the exact same thing. Like, and it's not just those two channels. It's everybody on social media. You know, it might be one camp or the other, but everyone's got the same fucking takes. Everybody's got the same opinions. Everybody's just typing the same shit and just hitting that send button and, oh man, putting their feet up on the desk. I really killed it today. Come on, everybody. And it's exhausting, honestly. Like, you know, my Instagram page, at the hardest part of the ring, I created that because I see so many of these meme pages or just wrestling in general related pages, and you're all saying the same thing. And a lot of that same thing is fucking dumb. Like, that's kind of what brought me to initially create wrestling specific social media, and what ultimately has led to me putting this microphone in front of my face and talking to you all about this stuff, because there are so many things in wrestling to talk about on a weekly basis. And at the end of the day, my main focus is to bring fun back to wrestling, because I think it's not even just specific to wrestling, really. Social media is just a terrible thing, guys. Like, it's awful. There are some good aspects about it, but at the end of the day, it's a platform for people to pick a tribe and just throw spears at the other tribe. For what? You know what I mean? To build their own clout, to add value to their lives, to get that W for the day. At the end, I mean, when you really think about it, social media and all these arguments that happen on a second to second basis is just, it's brutal to watch. It's brutal to be a part of. I mean, I'm guilty of it. I'm not saying that I've never done it. I mean, I'll probably continue to do it, just, out of habit, really. But wrestling is such a cool thing. I like, just to provide context, I'm a 26-year-old person from Virginia. I have been watching wrestling since I was 4 years old. So what was that, 22 years? Every year since then, I've been obsessed with it. Because wrestling, when it's great, is, in my opinion, one of the most beautiful things to watch. And it's, people who are outside the bubble don't really get it, Why you watching fake guys in tights and covered in baby oil grapple with each other? Well, why are you watching fucking Game of Thrones? Why are you watching The Walking Dead? Why are you watching Breaking Bad? There's value in, it might be scripted, it might be predetermined, but there's stories that can be created in and out of the ring, even on social media these days. The stories that can be created amongst the characters in wrestling is such an interesting and entertaining thing to watch. And it's silly. Like, wrestling's pretty silly. It's fun. You know what I mean? I've lived with a couple of different people, and none of them have been wrestling fans when I first started living with them. Roommates in college, or so be it. But that they'll sit down and they'll see me. I'll be watching wrestling in the living room, right? I'll be watching Raw or something, and they'll like be walking by, and they might sit down for a second, like, what is this goofy shit? The guy's not even hitting them. Well, why would he jump? Why would he help him on that slam? This is stupid. Why? Oh. But why is he, like, over time they like get attached to the characters, and then like, why did Seth Rollins turn on his friends? Like they'll like get to that point. Like, I think anybody can be a wrestling fan because it's such a fun form of entertainment, and I think people are losing sight of that. I think people are too concerned about their show winning, which, I mean, I'll probably get more into that later, but this concept of having your show, like, as if it's your team, like, whether it's AEW or NXT, you're not a part of that, right? You're not a part of that. I mean, you're watching it, sure, you're a fan, but at the end of the day, they don't give a shit about you specifically. Like, I saw a tweet. I don't even know if it was real, but I saw a tweet the other week. It was some guy, I don't know his name, I don't really care to research it, but he had he had AEW on his TV, on his laptop, on an iPad, on like 2 or 3 phones, and then maybe like a Nintendo Switch or something stupid. But he's like, I'm not gonna let WWE cheat by, throwing all their main roster stars on NXT. Cheat? Are you kidding me, dude? Like, yeah, those are their assets and they're using them. It's not, I'm sorry AEW doesn't have tiers of shows, and I'm sorry that they can't bring higher ones up to the lower ones. It's not apples to apples, dude. NXT is going to try to put out the best product they can every week. AEW is going to try to put the best product they have out every week. And that's all there is to it, man. Like, you don't, if AEW wins in the ratings one week and you're an AEW fan, you did not win. You won nothing. AEW won something. Kinda. Not really. I mean, yeah, sure, they had higher ratings, and that's something they could bring to the advertisers, or, it's something they could brag about on social media. So, but at the end of the day, from a pure, just looking at the company's ability to thrive and to stay in the market and to continue to put out a product, it doesn't matter if AEW beats NXT by 100,000 or 200,000 viewers, and vice versa. You know what I mean? It's not just a one-way street. But The point is, people need to stop wrapping themselves up too much in these rating wars, because it's not. I hate the term war. First of all, you know what a war is? The war was WCW versus WWE. That was a war. That was two companies trying to put each other out of business. That was dirty deals being done to get wrestlers to flip over. That was dirty shit like Eric Bischoff spoiling a finish to Monday Night Raw. That was, Eric Bischoff. It's a lot of Eric Bischoff. It's a lot of dirty shit. But it's him walking down the ramp, grabbing a Vince Fears Bischoff sign and showing it to the camera. Like, yeah, I mean, if you look at modern day, you have, I mean, really, if you're talking about like shots taken on air, it's really mostly AEW. You'll see Chris Jericho or Cody Rhodes, like when Chris Jericho was like talking about Jack Swagger and WWE, he was like, that We the People stuff was just bad creative. Was it, Chris? Because, correct me if I'm wrong, but Jack Swagger has never been more over than when he was doing that We the People shit in WWE. Remember when he was feuding with Rusev on Raw? Remember that pop he got when he came out? Remember the heat he had when he first linked up with Zeb Coulter, Dutch Mantel, and he was this evil Republican guy holding his hand to his heart and, being this, I hate Mexicans or whatever his character was. Okay, that's kind of a simplistic way of putting it, but you know what I mean. So, it's not a war, is basically what I'm trying to say. It's a competition for sure. Like, I'm not going to be one of these people that say that WWE does their own thing and they don't pay attention to AEW, because that's not true. We all know that's not true. I'm not going to kid myself. And that's just not the reality, you know what I mean? They know AEW exists. They know the capital that Tony Khan has. They know the drawing power of Cody and Kenny Omega and all, the hunger for a new promotion. They're aware of that, for sure. WWE is a company that has existed for goddamn centuries. And I know, I'm kidding. But they've existed for so long because they know how to deal with adversity. They know how to scope the competition. They know how to look at the market and tailor their product to survive in that market. For a long time, after WCW went out of business, there was nobody. I mean, you had TNA lollygagging in the background, but at the end of the day, they were never a threat. WWE never mentioned they never mentioned TNA Impact on Raw. It was nothing. Japan even was like in a lull period. That those early 2000s years, those early mid 2000s in New Japan, those were some lean years. So even like the diehard, tape traders, quote unquote, they weren't really active in the wrestling community either. So it was really a one-man show. And WWE Raw and WWE SmackDown, and those were some kind of okay years. I mean, there was some good stuff, like when I'm talking like mid 2000s, primarily maybe like, I don't know, 2004 to like 2008 ish. There was no competition out there, so the product kind of suffered because of it. Which is why it's so great, which is why it frustrates me that people aren't having fun with this, because now we got a major company, a second major company in AEW. We have, Impact is catching steam. We have MLW, NWA Power. We have New Japan, All Japan, Lucha Underground. There's probably a bunch of promotions I'm forgetting or I'm just not aware of. But this competition is beneficial to everybody. It's beneficial to WWE. It's beneficial to all the other companies that I just mentioned, and it's beneficial to us. I think that's something that people aren't grasping. NXT and AEW have always been, like, ever since they've been going head to head. Ever since they've been going head to head, they've both been great shows every week. some better than others, but they've both been great wrestling shows. And that's because they're competing. I mean, that's because they have to be good. You know what I mean? So who's losing here? Nobody's losing. If AEW gets less viewers one week, they didn't lose. They didn't lose anything. They're going to be back next week, and they might bounce back and have more viewers. It's back and forth, back and forth. But, you know, who am I? You know, I mean, I guess that's not clickbait worthy. That's not going to give me views on my article, or it's not going to get people to click on my website, I guess. You know what I mean? But I'm not concerned about that. I'm concerned about having fun, and I'm concerned about enjoying the product that we're getting today, because it's never been better. And it's going to keep getting better, and I'm here for it. I don't know about you guys, but I'm excited for the future of wrestling. There was a long period of time where I wasn't. There was a long time where I was like, oh, this is kind of plateauing. But now, you got so many avenues for wrestlers. You got so much talent, so much different talent, such a great evolution of what wrestling is. So, some great, some not so great, but that's what I'm here for, and that's what I'm here to either praise or shit all over. But yeah, I mean, I'm not too concerned with following, you know, the ratings wars. I'll as you know, as this podcast progresses, I'm not gonna completely ignore it. I mean, one thing I will say is, you know, because I have the ratings right here in front of me, and I'm not gonna put too much stock in it, right? Because I'm not gonna try to contradict what I've been saying. But one thing I'm noticing, you know, week to week, you could say who won, who lost, you know, whatever. But as far as the total variation in viewers, meaning like the difference between what they started, when I say started, I mean the first week where they were competing head to head. The difference in viewership is much greater in AEW, and that's not a good thing for them. It's been about 750,000 viewer drop since their first episode, whereas NXT has maybe lost about 330,000. Basically what that means is NXT is much more stable. Granted, I know, it's not apples to apples, because WWE is a solidified company. People know that brand, and it's gonna stick there forever. No way to get around that. But NXT's stable. You know what I mean? They don't have to worry about advertisers. At least at this point. If they keep putting out a good product, they're not gonna worry about, you know, USA kicking them off the air, or not getting advertisers, or not getting, you know, fan support. They're good. AEW, on the other hand, has, you know, they had this initial buzz about them, right? It's the new company. I mean, I was there. I don't watch a lot of wrestling live these days, but I watched that first AEW Dynamite episode live because I was excited about it. I mean, it's a new wrestling company. Well, who doesn't want to tune in for that, right? But, you know, as the weeks go on, you know, it kind of, you know, tapers off. You know, characters have been built in some ways, but there's a lot of flaws too. There's a lot of good things AEW does. I love their rating system. You know, I like a lot of the wrestlers they got on their roster. I love, you know, the commentary has been pretty good too. They're doing some unique things, but at the end, it's given me TNA vibes. And when I say TNA vibes, I mean like 2010, 2011 TNA, which is like when it was like basically WWE light. And it's not there yet, AEW, but the way it's kind of trending down, it's kind of appearing that, in my opinion, one day it's just going to be TNA 2.0. I hope it doesn't. I hope it continues to do good things. I hope the ratings bounce back. I hope they stop relying on taking shots at WWE for their ratings. I hope they try to create their own product and do something new and innovative and provide a true alternative. But I don't know, man. I watched that last episode of Dynamite, which was what was it, November 27th, I think, and it was okay. There was some good stuff. I liked Kenny Omega versus Pac, but I mean, you see matches of that quality every week on NXT too. Hell, even sometimes you see them on Raw or SmackDown. You know what I mean? It's kind of I get it. You know, they're kind of still finding their groove of things. People are still debuting, characters are still being built, so I can't, you know, put them down too much. But you know, people kind of, I think people are so conditioned to hate WWE that any other company, no matter what they're doing, they kind of like are in this mentality that it's like, oh, this is real pro wrestling. This is what wrestling should be like. Is it different than what WWE is doing? It doesn't seem that different to me. It's like there's some subtle differences, but to act like this is this whole new thing, or you know, it's not that different. It's a little different. It's not that different. But you know, I'm not gonna keep going on about that. I'm sure, you know, weeks to come, we'll be talking about, you know, what NXT is doing, what AEW is doing, and kind of discuss, you know, the comparisons and what each company is doing right and what each company is doing wrong. That's a big part of what I want to be doing with this podcast. But like I said in the outset, I don't want this podcast to just be that. You know, we have plenty of people, plenty of fans on all forms of social media giving their hot takes on wrestling, on the current day wrestling. And that's great. I'm going to keep doing that. But that's not all I want to do. So basically, still, we'll fine tune it as we keep going along with this podcast. But my goal is to ultimately have 2 episodes a week. I want one episode to be dedicated to current wrestling, basically like a week in review. So, you know, Raw, SmackDown, NXT, AEW. If there's any big shows in like New Japan, like Wrestle Kingdom, I'll probably discuss that there. Or, you know, if there's any like big Lucha Libre events or like a big ROH pay-per-view, maybe I'll discuss that. But it'll basically be modern day reviews, news, and my kind of opinions on what's happened that past week. But the second episode of the week, and I'm still playing around if it needs a name or what it'll be, but my draft name for it is Expanding Horizons, which is basically looking at shows that aren't getting talked about too much on social media, at least in comparison to the major ones of WWE and AEW. I love NWA Power. I'm only like 5 episodes in. I'm not sure. I think they're like up to like 9 episodes now. I still need to catch up. But I love that show. I love the old school, bare bones, no bullshit feel of that show. I love the character development. I love the it kind of harkens back to the days of old, but still has a modern twist on it. It's great. And I love to have shows where, you know, maybe I review a few episodes, because, you know, they're like, what, 45 an hour. So I'd love to talk about, I think I love to encourage people to watch it. I love to encourage people to expand what they watch, not just keep themselves in a WWE bubble or an AEW bubble. I want people to watch all of wrestling. It's not like a concern of mine, but there's so much good stuff out there that I think people aren't even aware of. I'd love to see this industry thrive. And if that, there's NWA Power, there's Lucha Underground, there's New Japan, there's Impact, MLW. There's so many different companies out there. Like Impact, people shit on TNA a lot. Like it's it's gotten a bad rap in the past few years, but I won't even say the past few years, but pretty much maybe the past decade or so. People think of Impact and they think of like Relic versus fucking Judas Messias or whatever that silly shit they were doing, like kind of, you know. But I'll like see clips of Impact online on their YouTube channel. It'll like pop up on YouTube, and they're doing some pretty cool shit. Like I love Sami Callihan and his group. Rich Swann. You got Tessa Blanchard, who is, in my opinion, the best women's wrestler on the planet. They got a Brian Cage. You know, it's this thing where I'll watch clips every now and then, and I'm like, man, this is pretty good. Why don't I watch this more often? So I would love to have, a show where I watch maybe an episode or two of Impact and, kind of review it and kind of give people a feel of what that show kind of entails, because I think it provides its own form of entertainment. And maybe it sucks. Maybe I'll do like one episode and I'll be like, yeah, I'm not gonna watch this anymore. But who knows? I love exploring new things. MLW. I've heard the name. I'm aware of some of the guys on there. I know Low Key's there. I think they got more of like a shoot fighting feel as far as my understanding goes. I could be wrong, but I think that's a cool, unique thing. They're kind of making their own brand. I hear a lot about MLW, Major League Wrestling. I would love to check that out, and I'd love to, again, have a show where maybe I watch an episode, and I either like, oh man, this is really cool, I'm gonna keep watching this, or this is pretty bad, this is pretty shit. I don't know what they're doing, and New Japan. I'm kind of in and out of New Japan. I'll watch like during the G1 Climax. I'm really, really active in watching it, and then kind of like tapers off. I'm just really bad with keeping up with their events, and I'll see a card and it's like 8 6-man tag matches. You know what I mean? It's like I don't really give a shit about that. I know some people do, but Wrestle Kingdom for sure. I'm definitely gonna watch, and I'm definitely gonna be on here talking about it for sure. Lucha Underground. I think their latest season's probably already aired, so I'm definitely like late to the game there. But I'm on season 3 right now, like 15-ish episodes into season 3, and Lucha Underground is awesome. Like it's really cheesy, and the Lucha Libre kind of style hasn't always been something that I kind of gravitate towards. But it's cheesy, but they know it. You know what I mean? And a lot of the matches they do, or a lot of the matches they have on there are great. Pentagon, Phoenix, who else? Mil Muertes, Matanza Cueto. Like, there's so many cool characters on that show and a lot of great matches. And that's, another show I would like to get on here and talk about. Over the Top Wrestling. It's a British. A lot of you probably have never heard of it, but it's a British promotion. And I've seen very little of it, but I saw this trailer for a match. I guess it was a few months ago at this point, but it was Jordan Devlin versus David Starr. And man, the production value that this company puts out is tremendous. I mean, it's still like a pretty a small arena. It's still got that subtle, that secluded feel to it. But it's such great production value, and a lot of that's where Walter was big there. Like I said, Jordan Devlin, a lot of the guys you see on NXT UK went through there. So there's so much out there, and you can't watch it all. But I want to try. You know what I mean? I want to watch as much as I can. It's Raw, SmackDown. They're very skimmable shows nowadays. And I've always been very OCD. I need to watch every second of Raw and SmackDown and 205 Live and NXT, and I want to expand my horizons. See what I did there? It's gonna be the name of the show. But so basically, that's the structure of what this podcast is going to be going forward. You're gonna have one day of current modern day shows, and then you have another day of something kind of out of the box, something that people aren't, discussing at length, like the shows I've been mentioning. But also, as far as expanding horizons goes, like I said, I'm a 26-year-old kid. 26-year-old man, and I've been watching wrestling since I was 4 years old. So it was pretty much 97, 98, 99, smack dab in the Attitude Era. And the WWE Network, for those that don't know, has every Raw, every SmackDown, every pay-per-view that's ever been released. They even have some Sunday Night Heats and maybe like a few Velocities here or there. But you can literally go back and relive that time. And that's actually what I've been doing too. I started a while ago. I'm slowly making my way through it. But I started the Raw after WrestleMania 14, I believe. Whichever one Stone Cold beat Shawn Michaels. I started the Raw after that WrestleMania, and I've watched every Raw, every SmackDown, and every pay-per-view from that point up until where I'm at now, which is like the beginning of 2001. So I would love, because I've been going through those episodes and those pay-per-views, and I've had such a great, nostalgia trip going through those, and it's so entertaining, and everyone knows that era of wrestling was great, but there's also a lot of shit, a lot of stupid shit that they did back then, a lot of terrible shit back then. And I think that's equally as interesting to talk about, in my opinion. But basically, for this Expanding Horizons podcast, I would love to go back, maybe review Royal Rumble 2001. As I go through these pay-per-views, maybe I'll get on here and talk about them. I think that'd be interesting. Or WCW even. Or AWA. Or NWA. Give me your thoughts, on social media. What would you like me to go back? Maybe there's like I don't know, an old like an old New Japan event that's really great. I'd be interested in going watch it. I love old wrestling. I think there was an art to it back then that you don't really see that nowadays. You get Private Party doing their choreographed dancing out there, whereas back then you had Ultimo Dragon and Rey Mysterio. Yeah, they were doing flips and shit, but they were also trying to kill each other while they were doing it, and I think that's something that's been lost, in modern day wrestling, and I think that's something that I like to go back to and watch and relive those days. So that'll absolutely be a part of this podcast. It's going back to those old shows and reviewing those, and maybe getting people to watch shows they haven't watched in a long time or ever. I think that'd be a great thing as a product of this podcast. Also, as far as guests go, I see a lot of people out there. They have guests. They try to tailor their guests to their kind of mindset. You know what I mean? You'll have like, I don't know, Brian Alvarez and Dave Meltzer on there, or on a show. And for the most part, they're kind of on the same page about everything. So it's kind of like, yeah, sure, I guess that you guys want to pile on something. But to me, it's much more intriguing to have two people with differing views. I would love to have people on here, that I share views with and discuss, different things. But I would also like to have people on here who I vehemently disagree with, and can get into a debate about something. I think with all the different moving parts in wrestling nowadays, I think there's a lot of points that could be debated. There's a lot of views to be had, and I'm here for that. I'm here to debate people, to give my thoughts, to hear their thoughts, and to kind of collaborate and see, I guess it doesn't have to be a winner necessarily, but you know what I mean. I think that's interesting, and I think people will like listen to that, but correct me if I'm wrong. So yeah, that's basically, to summarize, this podcast is going to be geared to current day wrestling. It's going to be geared to current day mainstream, current day less than mainstream. It's going to be geared towards retro wrestling, because wrestling is fun. I'm just going to let that sit there for a second. Wrestling is fun. Just have fun. It doesn't always have to be serious. You don't always have to be gripping your keyboards trying to get your point across on Twitter or on Instagram. But do what you do. I'm not going to tell you what to do. So yeah, I think I'll wrap this up right here. I'm going to try to keep this podcast in between like 30 minutes to an hour in general. So thank you all for listening. Be sure to follow me on Instagram at the hardest part of the ring with underscores in between each word. I'm probably going to change that eventually because I'm realizing as I'm talking that that's a horrible brand to have because it's very difficult to search for. But at the hardest part of the ring on Instagram, at Apron Bump on Twitter, and please rate, review this podcast. My goal is to have this podcast be released on Apple, Stitcher, Spotify, SoundCloud, all your platforms that you watch podcasts on. But we'll see if I can get that immediately or if that's something I'll have to work towards. But I appreciate you all listening. And stay tuned for more. I got a lot to say. I got a lot to talk about, and I look forward to doing it because at the end of the day, wrestling is fun, and we're here to have fun. We're not here to work at it. You know what I mean? Once again, thank you all, and man, I need like a way to like sign off. I didn't think of a catchphrase. Let's see, what could it be? Oh, I got it. I gotta go. Thank you all for listening to this podcast. Don't just get hard. Stay hard.